welcome to the three of you, and thanks for the opportunity today.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Big things happening. Got the release, got some news already pouring out. I want to go to what I feel is one of my favorite IPs. That's The Office.
Oh, interesting. Are you making the request that we do The Office?
No, I'm asking about, I know we have the panel, so I know there's going to be some news. I know we got to know a little bit. So in all fairness, none of our content won't be out before the panel.
Okay.
At the panel, so maybe we could talk a little bit about the panel stuff for the record.
He's thinking so close to his face.
Hey, Arthur, are we talking about the big O word over here? Yes? Without any detail. Okay, I'm getting the thumbs up from Jonathan. All right. Yeah, we're doing The Office. And I am very, very excited for that for a variety of reasons. Without getting into too much detail, I think what fans are going to discover is a very faithful and somewhat unexpected contribution, not only in-game, but to kind of greater Office lore. Now, to be clear, it's not like Michael and Dwight are going to kiss in the game or anything, but I think folks are going to be very excited to see how we're doing it and with who we are doing it. But yeah, we're very excited to bring The Office in game in a way that only further complements what we've already established. What are you looking for specifically from such an activation?
The cutscenes, obviously, and I want to kind of see how you all are going to take that and kind of make it your own. And then also, is there potential that it leads to, like, because we hear so much Office news in terms of the remake that's happening, and then there's this other version that's apparently being launched very soon too. So just, you know, as nerds and fans, we always look at the connectability here, and obviously we can't get enough of The Office. So it's like, what are you going to do with it and make it special? So I'm very excited for that.
What I will tell you is what we are not doing. What we are not doing is just diving into the sales record and being like, everybody likes the Recyclops, so we're going to have Recyclops in there for no reason, right? What we are doing, and maybe Recyclops will find its way in there, right? But like what we are doing is kind of the opposite, which is just how do we faithfully recreate the environment, the setup, the characters you know and love, and still somehow impossibly give them a unique ranged attack, a unique melee attack, and in some cases a special ability. So it will feel like a grand revisit to The Office you know and love, and then we'll have some fun and visit some of folks' favorite episodes of all time.
Dwight has to come out with at least 20 skins off break. just FYI.
To that, I will simply say, keep an eye as to when we release The Office and how that maybe potentially ties thematically to what you're talking about.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
So keeping it more general, how did you go about selecting which franchises to include in the game? Because you guys picked some very unique ones.
We did. So, have you ever heard of the lottery before? And like the ping pong balls that come? No, it's nothing like that.
Like, really?
No. Not at all. So, very, not complicated in terms of selection, somewhat complicated in terms of execution. So, we knew out the get that we wanted, like the big picture was many franchises, kind of an eclectic mix of franchises, an eclectic mix of genre and age demographics, because that's more of a grand celebration of Funko, right? Like Funko is for everybody. And so we wanted to make sure that everybody felt like they had a point of connectivity to the game. Let's be clear, like you don't have to be the world's biggest Back to the Future fan, like myself. Maybe not the world's biggest, but I'm like on the map there. And then respectively, maybe you're just really hardcore into The Thing, or maybe you like The Thing and Jurassic, but you're not really into Scott Pilgrim. That's okay. All of those things were meant to be platforms of discovery, and then ultimately we created a system whereby you could explore those things just from a pure video game standpoint, and then maybe get into those franchises as a consequence. So like I had a gentleman yesterday that cruised by the booth, and he's like, okay, I have a confession. I knew nothing about Umbrella Academy before I started playing the game. And
maybe too late.
And over the last 3 weeks, I have binged all, 4 seasons, 5 seasons? And he's like, I've been watching nothing else. I'm totally all about the show now. And I think that was always part of the mission. So to your question specifically, how did we choose our franchises? It really started with a weekend getaway. That sounds so romantic. It's not. Where we had some folks from Funko, myself included. We had John Burton of 1010. We literally rented an Airbnb. We locked ourselves in there, and we just had paper on the walls. And it started with high concept for how the game worked, and then we broke it down into genre. And we knew we wanted something adventure. We knew we wanted something horror. We knew we wanted something comedy. Right? That's where it started. Then we started having a real conversation with folks like NBC Universal, a couple other studios, about who's willing to play ball here. Like, we have kind of a crazy cast of expectations and hopes, and we have some incredible talent in 1010 coming from all the Lego games prior, right? So there's a degree of trust. NBC Universal was very kind in saying, we'll play ball. And so from there it was, okay, let's dive into the catalog. We got all sorts of goodness, and then we just kind of picked and chose our favorites. There was some back and forth, but ultimately we landed on 21 from NBC Universal and about a dozen from the outside world. And going forward, you can expect a little bit more of the same, kind of a 50-50. So some more NBC Universal stuff like The Office, and some more unexpected stuff, which you're going to learn about in about an hour. I personally want Parks and Rec.
So
Now all the mockumentaries on the table now.
Okay, here's the thing.
Yes, exactly.
So my wife and I bought our first home.
Oh, congrats.
Thank you. Last summer. We ultimately landed in Old Town Pasadena. We walked into our unit, which at that time it's a new building, unfinished. Beautiful window at the tail end of it. We walked over, and if you look out the window, it is literally Pawnee City Hall.
Oh, yeah, no, I've been there.
I mean, like, bold and large, and it fills the whole window. And we were like, uh-oh, we found our place. So yes, I have personal aspirations to get April Ludgate in game. I would love to do something with Lil Sebastian. So yeah, that is on my personal radar. Standby.
What has that done for the game since the release, and since maybe the other studios and brands have seen the success of it and seen how they can play around with each other? And it really be a great marketing tool to get people, like you were mentioning, the gentleman who hadn't seen Umbrella Academy. So all of a sudden, maybe the phone starts ringing. It's like, okay, now we would really be interested in having this IP in your game. Now is it like waiting list or
a waiting list? I wouldn't say it's necessarily a waiting list per se. I mean, it's lovely to be the belle of the ball. You know, like everybody wants to go together. I think for us, again, it comes from a place of authenticity. We're not going to integrate something that suddenly becomes the dominant voice in the title. We also want to be mindful of the destiny that we're building over what I like to call, you know, the next decade of gaming, so to speak. Excuse me. So some of those conversations are absolutely appropriate to have for Funko Fusion and the roadmap that we have slated. Maybe some of those other conversations are more appropriate to be a focused IP for a game 2 or a game 3, right? And that's what we're living through right now, is like, we love the dress, we look great, we're gonna have a good evening, right? We've chosen to go with a bunch of friends, not just one person, but I think, you know, there are other dances that are coming up, and maybe we'll be a bit more singular in our focus.
I mean, I'm definitely interested about that roadmap, because as a consumer, we look at certain games like Fortnite, which, why do we need a Fortnite 2? Because of their expansion. Grand Theft Auto, as much as we love that, but the DLCs have been so refreshing for us. And then even as somebody like Overwatch, it was another game, it was just like, the 2 was a hard transition over. And with this, we know the possibilities of the IPs that you all have. To think about a second one is like, where do we differentiate from that? But the most important thing is, because we talk, so behind the curtains here, you all have already taken consumer feedback and have already applied it a month in, which is big for us. That keeps us having faith for you all. Games like Cyberpunk, we lost faith because they was like, oh, whoa, well, wait a minute, we'll come back later. And then we have the big news, which is coming up about the co-op.
Yes.
Which means that instantly this was either on the table or this was instant feedback. What's this news mean? How did you land on this? And did this move up in the roadmap?
Great question. So first, just to say it plain as a regular Fortnite player, as a guy who spent a decade at Blizzard and was part of early days on Project Titan, and then eventually, what became Overwatch, which was my last technical credit when I was at Blizzard. Like, I have profound respect for those titles, and they emerged in a way that was conditionally unique to them and in the time in which they were born, right? Like, I played the Fortnite beta when it was a zombie survival game, before it was ever, the PvP dream that we know it to be today. But I want to be explicit in saying that Funko Fusion is not a games as a service model. It was never that. It will not be a live service game. We're not coming after every dollar that you've got in your pocket with every imaginable, that's not our thing.
Yeah.
Our thing was always to give you a complete and comprehensive game for the price point. And while we delivered that on day one, to your point, we had built this thing in a vacuum, and it's an independent developer, and there was a wealth of fan feedback that we had to work with, because people were finally getting in there, and they're like, hey, have you hit this wall 50 times? Did you know that if you hit this wall 50 times, it causes the mission to kind of crack or whatever? And we're like, why would you hit the wall 50 times? Anyway, my point is, I am so impressed with 1010 as a developer that, exactly to your point, any other studio on the planet probably would have been like, nah, we're good.
Yeah.
Like, you guys just do your thing.
Yeah.
1010 chose to go the opposite direction, which is so rare in the industry, especially at a time when, it's not super healthy out there for game studios, nonetheless indie game studios. And so 1010, to their credit, over the last 4 weeks, have delivered, as of today, 3 massive quality of life updates and probably 16 micro patches that were meant to address not only bugs, but actually changing the meta of the game so that people are having a better experience overall. And some of their direct suggestions, by example, we want character unlocks on minute 1, to be able to take any character into any world if you unlock that character, as opposed to previously it was sort of locked to the characters within their given worlds until you completed the game, right? And then it became free for all. Now all those walls are down because you hit them 50 times and we knocked those walls down. But the point is, they've been super responsive, super receptive to fan feedback, and I think things like co-op, they were always on the map. They've become very important as part of this overall exchange of value. As I teed up before today's interview, I had the good fortune of being at the Colbert show last night, and Stephen Colbert came out and he said, look, I want to be clear here, anything that you give me, we will be able to give you back. Right? So I just want to say the same 2 things that I tell everybody, every audience that steps into the theater, which is thank you for being here, have a great show, right? And I think that's illustrative of the dynamism that we want with the audience, which is thank you for being here. On the roadmap, we're going to send out all sorts of free cookies because you've been so patient with us or so good to us, right? So thank you for being here. The second piece is have a great show. Thank you for being a part of this process. Let's continue to build something together. Cool?
Absolutely.
Yeah, cool.
I'm here for the ride.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you.
Do you have time for this?
Jonathan's not saying no, so yeah, we're going.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so do you want to take it? Okay. So what are the long-term goals for Funko in the gaming experience? Can we expect other collabs or other games coming up? Can you tease anything?
What I can definitely tease is that really excited to keep working with Arthur and team on more for both Fusion and maybe future titles that we are not announcing here today. But other things that we're experimenting with. Last week we just released a collaboration with our friends over at Dreamlight Valley, and so you can actually unlock Loungefly backpacks in game today in Dreamlight Valley for their some 6 million odd regularly active players, right? So some of that, right? Like, I think we want to double down with our friends at 1010 and then also explore some other new ways to play.
Amazing.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you guys.